Welcome to One Insight. My name is Rich Litvin. I grew up in London and I now live in LA. And this is a podcast for extraordinary top performers. You see, I've coached some of the most successful and talented people on the planet. I see what most people cannot see, and I dare to say what most people wouldn't dare to say. And what I know about success is that on the other side of it, it can actually be lonely. You can feel like more of an imposter the more successful you become. And when you're the most interesting person in the room, you're actually in the wrong room. I coach around insight. Life looks one way, something happens, the world looks different, and your entire world changes. It can happen in an instant. And this podcast is called One Insight because a single insight can change everything. I've called this episode HighTouch Vs HighTech. It's a principle I've taught for years, and at this moment in time when we're all going high-tech, we're all staying connected on FaceTime and Zoom and being connected in more ways by technology than ever before, Facebook, Instagram, the high-touch versus high-tech distinction is more important than ever. And today I'm with Shelley. I ask her one question. What's the biggest challenge you're facing right now? She gives me some background to herself, and then we dive into who she is. Shelley is a rebel. She's an unusual leader in the corporate world, and her people are rebels. So we explore, what do her people need most right now? And it's a really great place to begin for yourself. Who are your people? What makes them different? And then behind all of that, as you listen in, play this thought out in your mind. What's the rebel alternative to how you're showing up right now? What would somebody else do? Because if you do what everyone else is doing right now, you'll get the same results as everybody else. And all the coaches and consultants and leaders, business owners who are slashing their prices right now, that will have you look like everybody else. A rebel might raise their prices right now, not to take more money out of people, but to say, hey, we have something that's really valuable and we can really serve you. What else would be the rebel approach to what you're up to? So listen in as a client, and then you'll be coached as I'm coaching Shelley. Listen in as a coach. And why did Rich ask that question? What would you have asked next? Where would you go if this was your client? Where would you take Shelley after this? And come and join me in my Facebook community online. We've created one just a couple of days ago for this moment in time, a pop-up Facebook group called Serve, Lead, Serve. Put that into Facebook or put my name into Facebook and you'll see one of my recent posts. Come and join us. All right, enjoy the conversation.
Hey, Rich.
Hello, Shelley.
How are you?
We are living in interesting times.
The understatement of the century. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
How are you faring with the kids?
Monique's homeschooling them right now. It's a very different world where we're now. I mean, I used to be a teacher. That was my job. Teaching your own kids is a very different world. But I'm appreciating seeing how they learn, my own kids. I'm appreciating being able to spend time with them in different ways. So I'm looking at where's the gift in all of this. It's been quite interesting to do that.
Yeah. I've been saying that too, a similar version of just, I'm remaining calm. I refuse to panic and put that energy into the world because there's already too much of it out there. And I am hopeful, that there's, I guess I'm looking for what is the possibility and the opportunity in all of this, or the gift in all of this, maybe is a different way to say it.
Great. Well, let's play with that today, if you like. What's the biggest challenge you're facing right now?
Well, I kind of wrote, let me tell you these two things that I wrote down because I've been thinking about this all morning. So one is the world is on an enforced sabbatical in a sense.
Right. So for anyone who's listening, you wrote a book about your experience of coming out of 20 years in corporate and taking what you call a soulbatical, a sabbatical for the soul, taking time away to reflect, to really shift the direction that your life is going in by default, so you can be in charge of your own life.
Yeah, well, and to add on to that, I mean, it's not actually about leaving your job at all. It's really about finding yourself. And what I discovered is that soulbatical is a way of being, more authentic, more courageous, more purposeful. And as you've taught me over the years, slowing down to speed up. And so I think that's what a lot of us are feeling and experiencing right now, is that kind of slowing down. And a lot of what I talked about was my own addiction to busyness. And how do we appreciate some of what we're being given right now?
So tell me more. What's the biggest challenge you're facing right now?
So, okay, so that's one piece of it. So that's an opportunity, right? And I keep asking myself, what's the rebel move in this opportunity? And I thought that could be a really fun thing to play.
So again, let me give context. I love that you said that. This is really a playbook for rebels, because it's who you've always been. You were the chief marketing officer for Harley Davidson, one of the most rebellious brands on the planet.
I wore my Harley shirt today. I was feeling especially rebellious.
And you've as a leader been in high-level C-suite, involved in marketing and business with organizations for years. You understand how to sit in rooms with high-powered leaders. I've got no doubt from the background that you have, there are times when you had to sit in a room and tell the CEO, I don't care what you believe, this is what needs to happen. Whether or not it did, or whether or not you use those words, that's how you showed up.
Yeah.
Okay. You're a rebel and you own it, and you wear it on your sleeve. And I love that question at this moment in time. What's the rebel move?
Yeah. And one of the things, can I tell you the other thing that I think is interrelated? So maybe if I just put this all out for us to play with. So as you know, and I guess for other people, if you haven't read my book, it kind of ends in this place where I was teeing myself up to have a conversation with the world about the soul of business. So Soulbatical is very much about my personal journey, and it's helping others to reflect on their journey and do some soul searching as they're reading the book. And I really feel this call to help executives, other rebel leaders, more progressive leaders, to first kind of live Soulbatical. So first, it's a radical kind of self-commit. It's about radical self-commitment, and that influences your leadership. But second, there's this cultural piece, right? Like, how do we start to flip the script? How do we start to shift culture? Because now is the time. And so that's really been on my mind. And I'm like, is this, not that I'm wanting to abandon Soulbatical, I think a Soulbatical is a piece of this, but how do I serve my ass off to support my rebel leaders in defining this for themselves and for the cultures of the businesses that they lead within? So that's kind of what I've been playing with.
Well, you know me, my attention always goes down rather than out. And this is the distinction I call weird versus wide. So your rebel leaders are the weirdos. They're the unusual ones. They're the unorthodox ones. They play differently. There's the playbook that everyone else uses, and then there's how they show up. And that's really interesting to me. But this isn't some kind of internet marketing play or fill your Facebook feed or LinkedIn posts around this. This is one conversation at a time, reaching out to one rebel leader at a time and saying, hey, what's going on? What's your biggest challenge right now?
Yeah, I think it is that. I love that you said that, because I'm personally feeling a lot of like Zoom fatigue at the moment, if it's such a thing, or maybe it's going to become a thing.
It will be, yep.
Right. And yet I thrive on this kind of connection. And I'm thinking, but you're right, the rebel move is more of a high touch approach. And if I can't be sitting next to you, literally in this, the context of the times we live in, I could be on the phone, not trying to put you into a chat room with lots of other people or create a workshop for you. Not that there's anything wrong, because a lot of us are serving in those ways today. I'm doing some of that myself. And yet I think this requires something different. So what's the biggest challenge you're facing right now? And literally just reaching out, having one-on-one calls. Yeah. And I've got a big, to use a very dated term, a big Rolodex of people who I would love to have those conversations with. I have this inkling that this tees up the second book, as in I'm kind of writing this book in real time. And now this might be the universe kind of serving me this on a silver platter to be having these conversations. And those conversations might eventually become case studies that become like the heart of this book, or the soul of this book, I guess.
I think it's really fascinating. There's something, so we'll come back to the present moment, but there's something down the road of when there's a lot of fear in the air, when there's a lot of chaos, everyone looks to do things the same way. Rebels don't play that way. And so you filtering for that right now, looking for the rebels, looking for someone who's doing something differently. I mean, every coach and consultant right now is filling everybody's email inbox and Facebook feed and LinkedIn posts around, hey, jump on a Zoom call with me, let me help you. Well, there's no point playing that way, because you'll just disappear in the noise. A rebel doesn't do that. And every other aspect of business right now, who are the rebels? And what's helping them to thrive and survive? So filtering for them, looking for them, and then asking them, hey, what help can I give you? I'm one myself. I understand how you operate. I know how you play. Want to jump on a call and brainstorm what the rebel approach would be in this moment? Lowering prices is something that everyone's going to do in the coming weeks. It's already happening. I see people saying, hey, I'm going to offer this low-end program right now, a very cheap price, so it's affordable. Price is not the defining factor right now. It's service. Can you help me? If you can help me, I promise you there are people who will be willing to spend all sorts of amounts of money. It's not about, is it cheap enough? If it's cheap enough, it's like everybody else, and people are going to disappear.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because you're right. I see that happening all over. And I think, somewhere in the recesses of my brain, I've been wondering about that myself, because I have 4 or 5 prospective new clients who have been, sort of nurturing through the prosperous coach approach. And people are getting really understandably skittish about investments right now. And I know on your call the other day, and this is like probably my biggest takeaway, was that doesn't matter. It was a great reminder that we're in the long game. We're playing the long game. We're serving our asses off. And, I don't want to get into this scarcity mindset, because that feels like a whole set of dominoes falling that impacts all of us energetically.
You're always in the long game. I've had people for years who say, I'm ready to work with you. I'll send you the check. And then nothing happens. And then you find out a partner lost a job, somebody got sick, they got scared. I never call someone a client until the check has cleared into my bank account. And I watch coaches all the time say, hey, so-and-so said they're going to work with me. They're sending me the check. Let me celebrate. And there's not the time to celebrate. What you celebrate is, I've served somebody really powerfully today, or I made a really powerful proposal. That's in your control. Everything else is not. And it looks like this moment in time, everything's insecure. There's never security. There's nothing is guaranteed. We're just realizing that in a very real way in this moment.
Totally.
And so,
that's why I think sabbatical is so perfect for this moment in time, right? It's like, well, now we're all realizing that we live in times that are always risky, and it's our opportunity to realize we can be courageous and we can do the hard thing.
So I love this. I see whether it's a series of books or little chapters here, a rebel's guide to risk, a rebel's guide to leadership, a rebel's guide to thriving in challenging times. I wouldn't wait. I'd create this as a white paper right now, Shelley. You could have this done by the end of the weekend. There's a page on each one, a rebel's guide to risk, a rebel's guide to leadership. And by the end of the weekend, there's a white paper that you can put out on LinkedIn. You can start to share with people. You can start to create a conversation. Hey, I want you to know that I'm curating a group of leaders who are rebels. This is not what most people are doing about how to grow your business in struggling circumstances. This is, I'm a rebel, and there'll be an interview. I want to check in, like, do you really understand what that rebel means? Or here's, the 5 questions. If you say yes to these 5, then you're clearly a rebel. And if you are, I'm curating a group of rebels. We don't normally do that. Rebels don't hang out together by definition, but they can. And let's support one another. And there's something really interesting in here to play with.
Yeah. And well, I don't know if you know that I did this, if you spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, but just the other day, in the morning, I woke up and, I need to be more consistent in my writing practice like you are. And I just wrote a corporate rebel's guide to thriving in uncertain times. And it was a few things that had come to my mind. And in fact, some of them, I think your webinar was like the next day, and some of our stuff overlapped. We express it in different ways because we use different language. We're different, but and then I said, I'm going to do a webinar on this. And this is the part that I want to serve and I want to do this, but it felt a little anti-rebel. And so maybe that's where this question was coming from. But I want to serve people powerfully. And I said, do you want to dig into this a little bit more? And I can support you. And I kind of bucketed things in care, connection, and creation, being sort of the three foundational pieces of how we really thrive. And I won't go into each one of them because you can figure out, what they mean. But I just think especially the creation piece is so interesting to me. It's like, what did Churchill say, right? Never let a good crisis go to waste. And I feel like this is an opportunity for so many leaders to be creating, and we're already seeing it happen. And connecting with customers in new ways. So yeah, I like that because it could be off the back of what I've already started to put out in that community. But I like the higher touch piece. Yes, ultimately there's a time and a place to put something out on LinkedIn, and maybe it is the second piece, a corporate rebel's guide to, or write the little chapters that you're talking about.
I'm doing two things at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the learnings and insights you'll get and how you can share some of this right now and really serve people. And where I began is high touch versus high tech. In this moment in time, reaching out a message, a little video message as a text on your phone, something really personal to people. So that it's like, oh, this isn't some kind of spam. Shelley's really thinking about me. And from that place, people say, yeah, sure. You want to jump on a call for 10 minutes? Hey, how's life? Maybe it's more specific. Hey, I was thinking of you, Paula. I was thinking of your business and what you're up to. I was thinking of the organization you work for. This is what I've been doing for 20 plus years. I've been a rebel for 20 years. I've been comfortable with risk for 20 years. And these days I help and I've always helped high-level leaders who are rebels, who are comfortable with risk and do the things that most people say you shouldn't do. You want to jump on a call and brainstorm some strategies for the next few weeks?
Yeah.
While Shelley's writing that down, let me say to everybody else, the distinction that's really important as you're listening in is high touch versus high tech. There's a place for high tech. Shelley and I couldn't be talking right now without Zoom, and you couldn't be listening in without your podcast app. But high touch is where it starts. And high touch is scary for people. It's so much easier to put a post on Facebook saying, I want clients, puts an article on LinkedIn telling them about your services, and then when people comment, trying to sell in the comments, it's edgy to reach out to somebody. But right now, if you're listening, if you're a coach and a consultant, there are gifts that you have at this moment in time, and you were born for this. You know how to handle challenge. You know how to work with leaders. You've been a leader yourself. There's something that is needed. Reach out one conversation at a time, one person at a time, high touch versus high tech. And Shelley, you've got this.
Yeah, this feels good. I actually think this is all I really needed.
It is. So thank you. If you're listening, please do two things. One, send me a note, send me a message, hello@richlitvin.com. What's an insight you got from this or an action you're going to take? Actually, three things. Two, share this with a friend. If you've got a coach or a consultant friend who get value from this, please do share it at this time. And the third one is, we've created in our community a pop-up Facebook group to really support coaches and consultants at this moment. Come in, because every day we're sharing ideas and insights, and I'm teaching stuff. And we've got this amazing community of people like Shelley who are in there too, and we're just there for one another. Thanks, Shelley.
Thank you, Rich.
For most of human history, it wasn't called coaching, it was called leadership. And it's what I love to do, to coach people, to lead people, and to mess with people's thinking. If you'd like more of this, or if you'd like to learn more about our community of extraordinary top performers, go to richlitvin.com/oneinsight.